Okay, I have actually a question. I haven't prepared you for this at all. Okay.
Now we're in trouble.
Because I'd like your opinion. And if you don't agree with me, you're wrong. But I'd like your opinion. It's something that's not clear in Roberts. And
Just one thing?
Well, it's one big thing now, and this is another thing that Richard Brown brought to my attention. Had nothing to do with our show. Had to do with how I was running a platform committee meeting.
Okay.
And Alicia Matson chimed in after I brought it up to the committee to tell them what my ruling would be, and she had said, yeah, she spoke to the dude who autographed my book, but one of the priests. What particular priest? Balch. Priest Balch about it. And it was said, yeah, that's not particularly clear right now in Roberts, and he gave his opinion, and his opinion's different than my opinion. I'm right.
You're delightfully vague. What are you talking about?
I'm going to tell you now. I wanted to set it up. So, in committees, there are different rules than for boards.
Right.
And one of the things in committees you can't do is call the question.
Right.
Call the question, bitches, you can't do that. So, let's go to that page, though, where it says you can't do that. Because there's something very interesting.
Where in the hell are we going?
And I'm going to be appealed on this next platform committee meeting, because I already told them what my ruling would be.
Where are we going?
We're going to end debate. So committee, so I'm looking in the index. I think 49 through 503 is the section with the rules on committee. I think it's closer to 503.
I just found 40.
Okay, 499 is where it starts, but okay, but on 500 is where I'm getting to. So it says, in order that there may be no interference with the Assembly's having the benefit of its committee's matured judgment, motions to close or limit debate are not allowed in committees. So it seems what it's stating there is they want long, full discussions because they consider that the unhindered, matured consideration that these people were allegedly, though it doesn't always happen, as we know, chosen the committee for their particular qualifications.
Didn't I have a case where you gavelled me down on this last year because I put up a sign that said filibuster?
I don't remember that, but I'm sure I enjoyed
It was up on my laptop, and you just looked at me and go, "Uh-uh."
Oh, you're talking about at
the last year's platform committee.
Yeah, well, that would
because a certain person just wouldn't shut the hell up.
I didn't agree though that he was being dilatory.
No, it wasn't being dilatory. He was being rambling.
Well, and that is we'll get into that. Yeah, I probably did, but you got to understand that someone else was using their computer screen out of my line of sight to flash insults at this person.
No, it wasn't me.
Like. Yeah, I'm not going to say who it was, but they kept turning their screen to the person who was flashing. And then when I saw it, I lost all patience because I think the word matured was in here. That's not particularly mature, but anyway. So it seems to me that's the reason for it.
I think they're using matured here in the emotional sense, but in the
qualified.
Well-reasoned and Qualified, yeah.
Yeah, that they have, there's a reason why they're on that committee. That shouldn't be because they're friends with somebody, but in any case. So, with that in mind, is it proper to put time limits in the agenda for discussion of a particular item? So, you see the issue now.
Very interesting question.
So if I used to, and I did that last platform committee. It would say, okay, we're going to discuss, amendment to Plank, 80. I'm just making one up for a half an hour. That's limiting debate. Because without a motion to extend, it's like the question, all pending questions have to be resolved after that 30 minutes.
Yet it's normal procedure for a committee meeting or any type of meeting to have an agenda for that meeting.
Agenda doesn't have to have time limits, though.
But you can. That's the thing.
Can you, though, with this? It seems to me, this is where it's unclear. It does not say you cannot do that.
Right.
But I think the implication of this is that you can't. It seems like putting time limits is an end run around it.
Maybe, because here's what it says. Motions to close or limit debate are not allowed in committees. A time limit on an agenda is not a motion to close debate.
But it says why they're not. And it's so that you could have the unhinged.
Unhinged happens a lot.
Unhinged does. So that you could have a lengthy discussion. That's why you can't close debate. So why allow this end run where the chair basically, by virtue of getting to at least write the agenda,
but the committee can still adopt the agenda or amend it.
They can. But is it even proper to consider limiting time?
I would argue yes.
See, I argue no.
And the reason why I will say yes is because a lot of times when these committees are not meeting in person, like when we're on Zoom, for example.
And that's specifically what I'm talking about.
We have a time limitation of what we can do within what the Zoom setup allows.
Well, we have a paid account, so there's nothing.
That makes a difference there. But on the other hand, if we're, say, in meeting in person and we have a room rental for whatever reason, that also has a time limit attached to it.
Yeah.
You know, the meetings themselves, here's the problem. If you don't have some means of encapsulating the time for the meeting, you know, to a specific block of time.
That's different than what I'm saying.
Well, hold on. Then you're faced with the possibility of debate within that meeting going on forever. No. Unless you pause it at the end of the meeting and bring it up the next time around, at which point you run the risk of repeating everything you said in the first place.
Well, you might run
you wind up doing nothing but going in circles.
Okay.
That's not productive.
Well, okay. Meetings themselves will have a start and end time.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily, as you say, end the question, because, as we learned earlier, all meetings of a committee are considered one session.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same session. So it goes automatically to the next meeting. If the same things are being repeated over and over, the chair has tools for that. That's when the chair can rule things dilatory.
Mm-hmm.
And
but yet if you read the asterisk...
Okay.
If a member abuses the privilege of speaking an unlimited number of times in a debate in order to obstruct the business of the committee, such dilatory behavior should be reported to the committee's parent, which may then remove the member from the committee, adopt an order limiting or closing debate in the committee, or take such action as it deems advisable. So according to the asterisk, the committee's parent can then take the action to have an order limiting or closing debate in the committee. The committee itself can't do it per Roberts, but this says the parent committee can.
1 second. It can on its own member.
That's not what it says.
I believe because, well, in our case, I would say on its own member, because who's the parent in our case?
And for a platform committee?
Yeah.
That would be the membership itself.
Well, no, I would say the parent would be the appointing body, and we don't have one appointing body.
Right, and multiple ones.
So let's say, and this isn't what's happening, I'm using her because she does not do this. Let's say the Colorado Representative Cat just would not shut up.
Mm-hmm.
Colorado can discipline its own appointee.
Right.
Can't make an order limiting debate on the whole thing, but it could make an order saying, Cat, you're only going to talk for 10 minutes and then you're going to shut up. And I would say if it was a national committee appointee, it would be the same thing.
Hmm.
That's the way I would interpret that in the scope of, it's a weird situation because we have not one appointing body.
Yeah, the asterisk here assumes one appointing body.
Right.
In that case, which I think is where it's coming from.
But remember, in our case, again, we're talking about a convention body, so I would say this wouldn't be... That's interesting because it would be the convention, because we're a convention committee.
Right.
But let's pretend we're not talking about a convention committee. We're just talking about a regular committee. Mm-hmm. Since the parent formed the committee for its judgment it can then say we want to limit its judgment. So that to me makes sense.
That's oversight, yes.
Right. I think it gets a little hairy. This whole section needs a lot of clarification, I think.
It does.
But in my case, I do not think I can put time limits on the agenda. So I did not put time limits last time.
See.
And the entire 2-hour meeting was on one proposal. But, and some members were very upset about that, and they said they want time limits next time.
But you've also got to add in some factor in the time for some other parts of the agenda, like setting the next meeting, for example. Reviewing, adopting previous minutes, if you have that in there.
We do all that by email.
Okay, then that's not an issue. But in some cases, that is an issue.
Well, yeah, you would have to make time for that.
You could have a couple minutes to come instead of the meat of the whole meeting, and then you have a little bit at the end for the.
Well, yeah, the orders of the day where you'd say at 10 minutes.
For the housekeeping, right.
Right.
But,
you'd either, or do it up front.
But within that block of the main event, so to speak, you can have all the discussion you want, and if you want to carry it over to the next meeting, which is not the same as a session, which is a whole different, which is I think is a part of the equation here.
But
then
all meetings of a committee are considered one session.
Right.
Right.
But not an individual meeting is an individual session.
No.
No.
It's all part of.
A meeting is a subset of the group. That's a session. Right.
Right.
Which a lot of people don't seem to understand are two different things.
Well, especially with committees, it's weird because it's big, it's long.
It is.
Right.
Especially when they're meeting for multiple times to deal with a lot of things.
So it's interesting, but I think the spirit of this clearly says the limiting should be an exception, and a very narrow one. And an agenda is a very typical thing.
Right.
So they were upset at me. So I said, well, this is what you can do. I go, at our next meeting, we're going to have an agenda, move to amend the agenda to add time limits. I will rule it out of order. You will appeal, and then you guys will decide what you want to do.
Okay, that raises one more question then. Okay. If there's a motion pending before the committee body, and the time for the meeting has ended, what happens to that motion?
It's put on pause, exactly as it was, and taken up at the beginning of the next meeting.
And what if it's not as taken up on the next meeting because it's not on the agenda for the next meeting?
No, it's automatically on the agenda for the next meeting. That's the way I interpret it, and that's the way I write my agendas now.
Because a lot of committee chairs may not understand that's what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, well, this whole...
I didn't understand that was what you're supposed to do.
It's a mess.
Yeah.
And it never occurred... And we went through that whole last platform committee. No one raised this. It didn't occur to me.
I wasn't even aware of it.
Yeah, but Richard Brown... And when at first I had your reaction, no, I think it's fine. But then I went and thought about it. Now, he's going to ask on the forum, but Alicia had already told me what one of the authors is going to say. But I hope this gets addressed in the next edition.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the committee will overrule me. But then again, okay.
It seems to me that the solution to this is just add language in here clarifying that if a motion, like I just said, if a motion is pending and the time for the meeting runs out, then the motion is, as you said, paused or automatically carried over to the first item of business in the next meeting. Pick up where you left off.
And whether or not you can put time limits in the agenda.
Yeah, theoretically, right now you can.
I don't think you can.
But it doesn't mean it's a good idea to do so in some cases.
See, I don't even agree theoretically you can. It's... Because it's silent, I think you have to go by the implications of what is stated.
Well, then you're back to a different problem then. Okay, if you don't put time limits on items in your agenda, how can you have an accurate orders of the day if somebody calls it?
But it's by order. It's by chronological. It's just we're going to deal with this, then this, then this, then this, and they'll call for orders of the day if we try to skip from number 1 to number 3, and they go, hey, no, we're supposed to do number 2.
Yeah, there's a little more to it than that, though.
I don't think so.
Oh, hang on. We're going down in the weeds here, folk, but this is one hell of a good discussion.
Yeah, I found it, and I am going to be appealed on this. I should have brought a copy of the agenda, but my agenda just had numbers on it. So, call
The order of the day is stated as a particular subject, question, or item of business that is set in advance to be taken up during a given session, day, or meeting, or at a given hour.
Well, that's for special orders.
No, this is order of the day.
But when it says a certain hour, that's because it was made a special order. Remember, we talked about that. A special order can interrupt, and then you go back to whatever it was before. We had that whole weird discussion.
I don't recall that one, but
I'll put it in the. I'm not even sure I've edited it yet, but we talked about how we never use special orders, but that's talking about a special order. Which, don't you remember I said we're going to execute Mike at 2:00? That was the special order discussion.
oh, I thought that was an agenda item.
Well, it was an agenda talking about general orders and special orders.
Well, okay, now hold on, now. Let's get going further. This is page 364, by the way. Okay, an order of the day cannot be taken up before the time for which it is set, except by reconsidering the vote that established the order, so long as the reconsideration is possible, or by suspending the rules.
Because
Two-thirds.
it's talking about special orders.
Next paragraph. Orders of the day are divided into classes of general orders and special orders. A special order is order of the day that is made with the stipulation that any rules interfering with this consideration at specified time shall be suspended except those relating to A, adjournment or recess, B, questions of privilege, or C, the special orders that were made before the special order was made, or D, to a question that has been assigned priority over all the business at the meeting being made the special order for the meeting. Yeah. However, hold on. So that's when it says a special order or order of the day. Now, where's the general orders, guys? Looking. Special forms of motion make general orders special orders, right?
General orders are just order of chronology. It's not necessarily of time. So if you want something to be at a specific time, that's a special order.
So, but if you're setting a specific time limit on a block for your general order, does that make it a special order? Not a wall clock time.
I know what you mean. You're like 10 minutes to discuss.
Right.
No, it doesn't.
Not 3:06 or whatever. Yeah.
It doesn't. It doesn't make it a special order. It just is an advance motion to limit debate. That's baked into the agenda, which is why I think you can't do that in a committee, because that is essentially what it is. It's an advance limit of debate, and the chance for the assembly or committee to argue about it is at the time they adopt the agenda. Adopting the agenda with time limits is basically conceding to a motion to limit debate without objection. Unless you, of course, have objected, and then you'll do your vote. And that's why I think you cannot do that in a committee. It's just, I'm sure I'm going to be overruled. And again, as you know, one of the priests, Alicia said, disagrees with me, but I don't know the context of the whole discussion.
Okay, what was Alicia's take on it?
She didn't have one. She thought it was just very unclear.
Okay.
And she, neither her or Aaron, she was the alternate, so she couldn't make motions, and Aaron basically said, okay, well, I see you didn't put time limits, let's see how it goes. And I don't know his feelings about how it went. He didn't say anything at the end. I think he was actually fine with it.
Well, of course, with Aaron, he didn't talk his head off.
Yes, but there were multiple times I think I irritated, and I did this last time too. You know, me and my equity is my overarching theory. There were times when I bent over backwards to make sure he had his full say. He's the California appointee, so, but at the end, even though we only debated one proposal, I think it was better than it would have been if we had a time limit. I think the result we came up with was better. So I'm now a fan of not limiting.
Yeah, you want a risk there, and that is the risk of abusing it.
Well, that's what you have to have, a chair that can rein things in.
Yeah, and we saw that in the State Bylaws Committee in the past couple meetings where that was abused badly.
That's why you have to have a good chair.
Yeah, and as a result of that was we have a committee that didn't do a damn thing when they were supposed to.
Right.
But that's an issue for discussion in a few weeks at the state convention.
Right. Yeah, you have to have a chair. It's more than just knowing the rules. I think you and I would both say that some of it is personality. Some people just cannot command the respect of a room, and it's not they can do something else better than another person. You know, everyone has their innate things. Like, as I said before, you look at Nick, you would never think that guy would have whatever he has in his personal charisma to control thousands of libertarians, but he can.
Yeah.
And it's not something that can be taught. You have it or you don't.
He can run a meeting as well as anybody I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
I don't always agree with him on philosophical points, but I will never question his ability to run a meeting.
Right. And looking at him, he looks like a baby face, sweet, just,
Car salesman.
Yeah, well, they're not generally sweet, but when he doesn't have his beard, it's a baby face. But when he gets up there, there's just something he exudes, and people respect it. It's just something innate, and that is important to have in a chair. It's so it's not your best friend. Sometimes the person you're going to appoint to be the chair might not be a person you like. Because sometimes you got to be kind of a dick when you're being the chair, so it might not be a person you like.
And that is something that I wish my own county had learned several years ago.
Yeah, the job of the chair is
to
not
get the job done, not to be everybody's friend. Yes,
not to be everybody's friend, and to be fair to those that the chair might not like. Again, equity. So that's the end of that special thing. I think since I brought it up, I get to.
However, it was a good discussion.
I don't want to break. Well, this isn't glass.
Tap on there.
It's a.
Tap on the paper. There you go.
Okay, we're done. It's acrylic, the same shit I put on my nails. All right, we're done. Adjourned. Beer time.